Hello, this is Berrin from Ragic speaking. Today we're going to talk about project management, and I will wait for a few people to join in before we start, and we have 5 more minutes before we actually have time to begin. And I have received one question about this topic so far from Quentin, and he was saying that he was working on building a sheet that has projects, levels, and deliverables. And I did reply asking what type of levels he meant. But if you're watching, Quentin, I would be really glad to know more about what you're asking so that I can reply properly. But basically, we're going to go through basic project management with Ragic by building a sheet for projects and probably for tasks, and see how to assign different people and how to collaborate with your colleagues through Ragic. So we're going to go through that step by step. I created a project sheet that has very simple data in it right now. So we do have the project ID, the name, the start and end date, and we're gonna build upon this. And I'll also show you other examples that I've built in another account, which is mainly my test account to build things for other people's questions. When I receive questions through email, I usually use this test account. So this is also, I think, a screenshot that we have in our user guide. And well, basically, what I have here is a very basic sheet that shows me a project. This is an editing thing. So if it was a photo editing, we want to remove the car and the hedges on the terrace for this image. And basically, this person is asking another person and assigning this entry to him, and asking them to remove these two, and then well, giving other specs. So that is one use. This is very simple in one sheet only. We are going to talk about using one sheet or several sheets to do project management and possibly to assign different tasks in a single project. So I do hope this is useful for you, and if you ever have any questions, there's a live chat bar on, it might be on the right side of your screen if your screen is larger, and if your monitor is smaller, it should be right below the video on the right side. So there is a live chat. You have to be logged into YouTube to rate me anything through there. But basically, you can ask any questions or tell me about your projects and how you manage your own projects, and we can possibly create something on Ragic that corresponds to that. All right, thank you for joining so far, and we will begin in a couple minutes. And if you have any questions, again, please don't hesitate to ask me beforehand, or if you have anything that comes into your mind anytime, just write it into the live chat. If I can't answer right then I will return to the question afterwards. So on the right side, you'll see the text of the email. So I'm going to kind of go through there with the project. I'm not sure what they meant by levels, but I'm definitely going to use tasks or deliverables that are part of the project. So I hope that will give you some insight on how to do your own project management. I know every company is different, and we are going to, make a very generic project management app. But according to your input, we can kind of modify that to become more specific. All right, we have reached 1:30 p.m. So I'm gonna start, and if anyone joins afterwards, they can just jump right in. Basically, I have a very simple project sheet right now that I'm designing. I have just started to create this form, so I added a few fields with the project ID, the project name, the start and end date, And well, you probably also need a due date, and there is an actual end date. So let's add a due date as well. And if you're a beginner in Ragic, you might have noticed this. We kind of look at the keywords on when you're typing in the field name. So when you're creating the fields, Ragic kind of looks at what you're typing inside the field header and determines which field type is going to be used. So this is the date. You can also change the formatting. You can either choose one of these format types or write your own over here. But basically, if you didn't want to choose that field type, you can always change the field type. Alright, so my project ID is going to be auto-generated, so I don't really have to bother with doing that. But the project name is, let's say we have a small team and we're going to work on several projects, so we need to name them. You can also add a category. In one of my examples, I have some project categories. So again, this image that I just showed you guys before is an editing kind of company. So we have like film shoot, rendering, editing, composing, compositing, and whatnot. So these are really helpful if you have different categories within your team or have different teams that work on different categories. This is especially useful in design agencies and event management type of things. So if everyone has different roles, you can kind of change the categories or like assign tasks to different categories if you want to break those tasks down. So I'm not going to talk about how you work on your projects mostly because that really depends on the teams. I don't know if you make Gantt charts or timelines or map it on a calendar. It doesn't really matter in this case. We want to kind of make the collaboration type of thing and time tracking in our version. But if you are out there and trying to, organize more, then you can adapt accordingly. All right. So my project name, start date, due date, and end date are here in my projects list. So immediately I can begin to use this form to create a few projects. For example, let's take cue from that other one and make it a photo editing aerial city shoot. And let's say the due date is going to be on Monday. So the end date can be empty in this case right now. And we probably need to break down the tasks as well. I mean, it always depends on what type of projects you conduct in your office, but I like to break down projects into tasks to keep an eye on where I'm going inside a project, especially because I work out of office. So I work from home in Ragic, and usually if I am working on a project, I have several tasks. So I have an example for this in this app. So this is a different type of project sheet that I made. Basically, we have a project manager and a director as well as the tasks, and they can be assigned to different people. So, in a sense, this is very different than the one we had here because this is more of a singular sheet where this one has a task breakdown. So we can actually go to the tasks themselves and then have a look at the tasks. And furthermore, if you have a large team and you don't want to see, you want the director and manager to see all of the tasks, but you don't really want other people to be able to see the details of other users' tasks, then you can do this kind of breakdown. The reason for that is you can give more access rights. So you can have people assigned to the tasks, for example, and then they can only see that one task's detail while other people won't be able to view that. and only the manager and director can see all the breakdown. So that's also possible by defining your access rates. If we wanted to see all the tasks in one place, you can also like generate a new sheet from that subtable. So we're gonna go through the steps to create this. This is just the basic structure I did before, depending on a question, I think. But let's go to our project sheet and see what we can do with that. Alright, so immediately I kind of know what I need on this sheet for projects. So we have the project name, but we don't really have details about the project, so we can add that. And you can modify cell heights over here, so we can kind of drag this down to through the border on the left side to have a longer paragraph-ish type of text box. All right. So about the assignments that I showed you over here, this one is selecting from my users on Ragic. So you can create that type of thing to define who has access to this project. Now the good thing with that is when I'm assigning an entry to another user, depending on what access rights they had on the sheet, they can have even more access rights. So I'll show you what that means in a second. So if I wanted to set selected user as entry manager, that means I'm assigning. And when I assign a project to someone, so I'm the only user in this database account right now, so I'm going to pick myself. But once I do that, I know I'm the system admin right now on the account. But if I were just a regular user and I had a bunch of users that I can assign this record to, you'll see in the information panel. So the informational panel is over here when you click on the eye, and you can immediately see that this was created by me, and the entry manager is the person I'm actually assigning this to, as well as the creator user. So the person who created that project would also be under here, and the person who is assigned to the project would also be in the entry managers here. So what the entry manager means in your Ragic account is defined a little bit more clearly on a documentation file I'm going to show you. So let's have a look. In our user guide, I'm going to send this link in a second to you guys, but there's a section called assigning entries over here. So when you set selected user as entry owner, like the setting I just did on the design mode. So let me show you where it is. So underneath here in a checkbox, there is set selected user as entry manager. So we changed the wording from owner to manager because there can be multiple entry managers, and you basically select a user from the account. You can also select a user group that this drop down should show. So it's a little bit more fine-tuned than the one we have in the documentation, but you can select a user group or the same group as the project submitter. Alright, so the thing with this is you can have different levels of access rights. So I'm not sure if you're familiar yet with the access rights in Ragic, but there are a few different access rights that you can choose when you're configuring the access rights for the sheet. Now, the way you do this is there are different user groups. These are all the default ones, and everyone represents anyone off the internet. So it's the public user, right? But the other ones are basically the defaults that are configured by Ragic. You can also add your own user groups. It's just a kind of name that you pick for the user group. I mean, the management, HR, accounting, sales, and IT are all very generic, so that's why we put them there. But You can create your own user groups if you want to. For example, sales team 1, sales team 2 can be a thing for you. All right, so the different access rights represents who has access to this entry, to this form's entries. The survey users can create and edit their own entries in the sheet, but they won't be able to view any other entries inside the project sheet. So if I picked the management user groups to be a survey user, then they won't be able to see the entries other people might have created. So that's not really a good idea for my management team, right? Especially if they're going to have a word in the project. So a better use would be an admin type of role for a management team, since they can create and edit all the entries. Of course, they can also view all the entries. The bulletin user is also a good pick because they should be able to create and edit their own entries while viewing all the other entries. So if other users are survey users and the management team is the bulletin user, the management team will be able to see all the entries that the survey users have created. Does that make sense? All right. So what we have here is even if I had the management team as a survey user, if I assigned a manager to this project, then they can actually view the entry even if they aren't the creator. So if I were Timmy in the sales team who created a project and assigned a manager to my project, then my manager would be able to view that entry, even though they did not create that project. So that's why we kind of have this assignment flow. You can grant extra access rights when you assign an entry, and they also count as the entry manager. All right, so I'm going to leave these rights as they are right now. And let's say we have some details and save. Okay, so this is basically a very simple entry about my first project with the start date and due date and some details and an assignment. So basically, if I wanted to add more things, for example, a file attachment or an image attachment, I can also do that by creating new fields. But usually for projects, we kind of want a breakdown of the tasks. So for that reason, I'm going to create a subtable over here with my tasks. And my tasks will also have a task ID, description, and perhaps they might be assigned to other users as well. So task assignment. And again, I can pick a select user image field to be this, and I don't want to select this user as an entry manager for the entire project, so I'm going to leave that for later. We can actually add multiple select so that different users can be assigned to a single task. On the task ID, I kind of want it to be auto-generated so I don't have to think up a number for each task ID. Now for newer users, the auto-generate field is a field type where Ragic generates a number in sequence for you. So it goes 1, 2, 3, 4 in this format, and there are a few different formats that use the date and time. I don't think we really need that for now, so I'm just gonna add T in front of here. So you can change the formatting over here if you want to. You can add a prefix, a suffix, or whatnot. I'm just gonna add T and a number. And a start date and end date for here as well. So I'm not sure if we need a due date here. Let's add that anyway. Excuse me there. All right, so we have a little breakdown for the tasks, and perhaps we need a editing, and then getting ready to print. All right, and perhaps we want to start this, and it's already completed now. And this one, perhaps we already started today and it was due on Monday, but we're still working on it. Okay, let's save that, and you'll see that the task ID is automatically generated already. Okay, so the best way to kind of get a hang of all of your tasks and view them in one place is to generate a new sheet from this subtable. Now, right now, it doesn't really make a lot of sense to do that because we only have one project. But if I had cloned this, let's say we have different projects. So this one is my second project. And let me just modify the dates a little bit. Alright, so this is my second entry in the project sheet. And now I have two entries, right? So if I have lots of tasks, for example, dozens of tasks under each project, then it's gonna be a little bit more hard to track everything because you can actually search for subtable fields, but that's not very ideal if you want to see them all, especially with your deadlines coming up. So if I wanted to view all my tasks in one place, I can change the design, and through Forms tools, new sheet from subtable generates a new sheet that will be my tasks sheet, and it will collect all tasks from under each project. Alright, and I want to link back with the project ID. So I'll create a new sheet. So Ragic will automatically take all your subtable fields and list them underneath here. And this is automatically generated, so I already have all my task entries. And if I wanted to add new tasks, I can either do it through my projects, like I did just now in my subtable. But if I wanted to add a new task through here, I can do that too. So with this linking type, if I wanted to select a project and then add and assign it to someone starting today, due on Tuesday, then when I save this here, it'll automatically appear underneath my projects over here. So that's a very good way of keeping track of different tasks underneath projects if you have multiple people working on different projects at the same time. Any questions so far? Again, for the people who just joined, we have a live chat box on the right side of your screen. If your screen is a little bit smaller, you can scroll down a little bit and it will still be on the right side. And I think you have to be signed into YouTube in order to ask me anything through there. Alright, so now that we've got that down, I'll show you a quick tip on using a report type to have a look at your keep a track with all your deadlines. So in order to use this report I'm going to show you, which is the to-do list, which you can utilize for your tasks, is you need a field that is going to be empty. So and this field has to be a date field. And this is very ideal for my structure over here because we know that there's a due date, but we don't have an end date until it's complete, right? So a to-do list will help you check off the end date when you're complete. So let's see. We do have 3 tasks that are not done. So we had multiple tasks over here, but some are done already, so the end date is filled. And in my report, I don't have any of the end dates full. So I can actually check off this when I am done with that one task. And once I'm done with that, then it will update on here and say that I have marked the end date when I check it off. So it automatically fills the date that you check the report with, and it will basically automatically update over here. So once I'm done with a task, I can actually check them off from here and don't worry about doing data entry through my task sheet. So that's a neat little trick that you can use for date-based fields. And basically, you'll need an empty date field, and when you check it off from the task list, to-do list report, sorry, then it will automatically fill the sheet with that data. And I can actually save this as a report in my account. So this is my to-do list for tasks. And I'm not going to apply filters for this, right? I don't need to. So save. So you can see that the next time I open this to-do list, it's going to be updated with the ones that are not already done. So once I check this end date, it will fill up with the end date of today. So it's basically going to show me that I have checked it and the end date in the current date, which will fill the end date. All right, I hope that helps you in kind of, checking off things and automating some of your tasks. And I just saved that under my reports. So when I refresh this page, it should be under my reports over here. So any user who has access to my tasks to-do list report can go there and see their own tasks. So depending on what access rate they had on the sheet, they will see that report with that access rate, provided you give them that access rate. All right, so the next thing would probably we did go through the account manager things. And right, so the best way to go about assigning people to different tasks in your projects would be this structure. So I actually have a select user field in both. So if I wanted to go to my tasks and have assignment rights for different users, so I kind of want the entry manager to be the person who is assigned to that tasks. I didn't do this for the subtable field on here because I don't want them to see the entire project details, just their own tasks. So that's why I am only setting this over here. All right, and let's check the access rights. So my users over here will be bulletin users, which means that they can actually see all of the other entries. I kind of don't want that, so I will make them survey users. And survey users can only create and edit their own entries and the ones they're assigned to. So this is the most ideal. And when a person who is creating a project assigns tasks to different people, then those other people will only be able to see those tasks that were assigned to them underneath the project. All right. Regarding collaboration, we did cover this in the last webinar, but I'll show you again. Over here, we do have comments. So if you have several people assigned to the same tasks, they can actually collaborate within Ragic and write comments. And the people who are inside the task as an entry manager will receive notifications about this comment. So depending on the notification settings you have set on your account, they will either get email notifications or get notified with the little bell icon over here. So you can kind of configure notification settings on who receives what, which is very useful. I mean, the comments here, you can also attach files, which is very useful when you want to go back and see previous tasks in different projects. And again, when I write a comment, let's write a test comment over here, you'll see the timestamp and the date. So there is more fine-tuned control to see who said what at what date. All right, and again, you can actually design the task to be fields with file attachments. So I'm gonna add a little subtable over here, adding attachments, and you can actually add a description with that attachment if you want to, so that you can collaborate within the task sheet instead of emailing back and forth or just dumping the files into a folder. Sometimes this is more neater. All right. So any questions so far? No? All right. Okay, let's continue. So another method to collaborate with users and making sure that they follow through with their projects are there's a neat little feature over here where if you click invite user to review this record, they will actually be emailed and asked if they can have a look at their project when you check this box. So one, they'll get an email notification having them checked, asking them to check out the project, and you'll also see an icon. So I don't see it right now because I don't have many users in my account, but I'll show you how it looks like. Sorry, in the user guide. So entry review over here. So when a person is added with that by selecting that user, they should be able to see the entire record in the email. And once they actually open that email, you'll see a check mark that looks it first looks like this when they're not looking. So once they open the email or actually go into Ragic and have a look at the project, then you'll see that they have actually read the project page, and then you'll see the check mark turns into green. So that's very useful when you want to collaborate with people, and it's kind of like a opened email notification for you as well. So you can make sure that people are keeping in track with your projects. And you can do the same thing for tasks as well. This works in any select user type of field. It's quite useful. So I'm going to link both of these that I mentioned from our user guide on here. And I'm waiting for your questions about project management, and actually how you are doing project management in your company is also important. You can ask me anything about that. Let me copy these two links first. All right, so the one about assigning entries is here. And the one about entry review that we just talked about with the check mark turning green is here. All right. So I mean, this is pretty straightforward with the projects and tasks underneath the projects, and they're all linked to each other. So when I add a new task, it will be shown inside the project. When I add new tasks inside the project or do any changes, then when I add a new task over here, it will show up on my tasks board. So basically, whoever's assigned to the task will see their own tasks and will be able to check them off and finish them off. And the project manager over on the project side will see all of them. Basically, we also did a little cheat sheet over here in order to see all the tasks that have a due date but without an end date yet. So those are not done yet, so they don't have an end date. And basically, we can check them off, and then whenever they're done, so this checkbox is the mark done kind of checkbox thing, and it fills the end date with the date that is current. So I hope this helps a little bit with your project management. I know this is a little basic for users who are veterans with us, and if you have used Ragic for a while, it's a nice refresher. Quentin, if you're here, I really would like to hear more about what levels mean for you. Maybe you were mentioning levels of access rights. I'm not sure. I hope that was helpful. And well, that's mostly all the material I have about project management. So collaboration. Oh, there's also cell comments. So if you wanted to add a comment, you can right click on any of the fields and insert comments over here. And you can actually save them. Other users will be able to see your comment when they go into the entry, and they'll still see this little icon with the arrow, and when they hover on that, they'll see all the comment threads. So that's a good way to collaborate with your coworkers as well during project management or anything else within Ragic. And well, it's not very good to add a bunch of notes that people need later, because you can't really export these, but these are very nice quick notes kind of commenting way. I hope that made sense, and yeah, that's about it. So do you have any questions? I can answer anything about what we did today, or if you have an entirely different type of question that is not related to project management at all, you can also let me know, because we have a little bit more time, and I would be glad to answer any outstanding questions you might have about your own database. If not, I really thank you all for joining today. I know this was very short, and for users who have been with Ragic for a while, I know this is not very new to you, but I hope that helped. We do have another webinar that is going to be more useful next week about automation. So it's about task automation. It's going to be on Wednesday the 12th. And it's again at the same time, 1:30 p.m. EST. And basically that will go through most of the new features we have with automation. So we do have some new action buttons. And before we implemented this underneath here, and the form tools, custom buttons, these were doable again, but through JavaScript. So you would have to go to the backend and write a little bit of code to actually add these. But now we kind of automated that so that you can automate some of the tasks that you have in your database. So we have these custom buttons for you to experiment with. And I'm going to talk more about this next week again on the 12th. But if you have any questions about it, you can let me know, or you can go to our user guide, and we have that underneath the section, the linking section, I think, over here. So 4.2 custom action buttons. I'll actually link this to you guys as well. This is what we're going to go through next week, and I'll talk about more about the custom automation for your database. So I am looking forward to that. This one was more for basics on newer users, and I hope it helped some of you. Let me just post that. Alright, so that's next week's topic. And I do hope you go ahead and experiment with your own project management. If you have any more fine-tuned questions about how you do your project management, then you can always let me know through email. So you can write to support@ragic.com, and I'll write that over here at ragic.com. And you can always let me know what you're building, and even very customized questions about your own company and how you want to do project management. That would be really helpful for us to point you in the right direction. Alright, again, thank you everyone for joining today. I know this was a very short webinar. It was very nice to go through this topic again, and if you have any questions, just let me know through email to support@ragic.com. Thank you all, and I will be ending this webinar now. We don't really have any questions through the live chat, so thank you all for joining, and I'm looking forward to seeing you next week for the task automation webinar on the 12th. Alright, thank you. Goodbye.